The huge screen on the wall of the United Nations Space Command Center showed 7 large ships. They had appeared near Pluto without warning. No one had seen them coming. Commander Elizabeth Harrington stood with her hands behind her back, looking at the screen with a calm face that hid her worry. "How did they get past our early warning systems?" she asked. The room was quiet except for the low hum of computers and the soft beeps of equipment. 20 people sat at their stations, all looking at their screens with tense faces. Dr. Samuel Collins, the head scientist, walked up to stand beside Elizabeth. He was a tall man with gray in his beard and deep lines around his eyes from years of too little sleep. "They use some kind of technology we have never seen before," he said. "They can hide from our sensors. We only spotted them when they wanted us to." Elizabeth nodded slowly. This was not good news. Earth had been watching the stars for many years, looking for other life. Now that life had found them first, and in a way that showed they were more advanced than humans. "What do we know about them?" she asked. Samuel pulled up some data on his tablet. "Based on the few scans we've been able to make, they match descriptions of the Zentari. We've picked up stories about them from deep space radio signals for years. They control about 60 star systems and are known for taking over less advanced worlds." Lieutenant Gregory Walsh looked up from his station. "Commander, we are getting a transmission from the lead ship. They want to talk." Elizabeth straightened her uniform, put it on the main screen. The image of space disappeared, replaced by a creature that looked almost human but was not. It had blue skin that seemed to shine with its own light. Its eyes were like those of an insect, with many small parts instead of a single pupil. It wore what appeared to be a military uniform of dark purple with shining badges on the chest. "People of Earth," it said in perfect English. "I am Admiral Zorvek of the Zentari Confederation. We have watched your world for many years. Now that you have started to travel beyond your own star, we have decided it is time to welcome you to the larger community of space." The alien paused, as if waiting for this news to sink in. "We come in peace, but also in strength. The universe is a dangerous place for young races like yours. Many would take advantage of you. The Zentari Confederation offers protection to developing worlds like Earth." Elizabeth did not like the sound of this. In her experience, offers of protection usually came with a high price. "Tomorrow we will show you our ships in your orbit. You will see the power we can use to keep you safe. After that, we will talk about the terms of our protection." The screen went dark. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Then people began to talk all at once. Elizabeth held up her hand for silence. "Get me Fleet Admiral Richard Johnson," she said to Walsh, "and connect me to the President." 10 minutes later, Elizabeth sat in a secure room with a direct link to the White House and to the hidden base on the far side of the moon. On her screen, President Olivia Martinez looked tired but focused. Beside her image was Admiral Johnson, a man with dark skin and short gray hair who commanded all of Earth's space forces. "The situation is clear," said the President. "These aliens think we are just beginning to explore space. They don't know about our real fleet or our defenses. This was the biggest secret on Earth. While the public knew about the small ships that carried people to Mars and the Moon, they did not know about the much larger and more powerful ships that had been built in secret. For 50 years, the nations of Earth had worked together to prepare for this exact moment. First contact with a potentially hostile alien race. "Should we show them what we really have?" asked Elizabeth. Admiral Johnson shook his head. "Not yet. Let them do their demonstration first. Let them think they have the upper hand. Then we will show them that humans are not as weak as they believe." The President nodded. "Agreed. Commander Harrington, you will coordinate from Earth. Admiral Johnson will prepare the Shadow Fleet. Let's see what these Zentari show us tomorrow, and then we'll give them a surprise of our own." After the call ended, Elizabeth went to the large window that looked out over the command center. Teams of people worked at their stations, monitoring the alien ships and preparing for what might come next. She thought about all the years of secret work, the hidden factories on the Moon and Mars, the ships waiting in the darkness beyond Jupiter. The public would be told about the aliens tonight. There would be fear and excitement, but they would not be told everything yet. Elizabeth watched as a young officer ran to his station with a new report. The aliens were moving their ships, getting into position for their show of force tomorrow. "Let them show off," she said softly to herself. "They have no idea who they're dealing with." She turned to her assistant, a young woman named Kelly Wright. "Send the coded signal to all Shadow Fleet commanders. Tell them to be ready but stay hidden. And make sure our stealth systems are working perfectly. I don't want the Zentari to see even a hint of what we have waiting for them." As Kelly hurried away, Elizabeth looked back at the screen showing the alien ships. They were big, yes. Impressive, certainly. But the aliens had made a serious mistake. They had underestimated humanity. Elizabeth smiled. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. The next morning, people around the world stood outside looking up at the sky. News of the alien ships had spread quickly. Some people were scared. Others were excited. All of them wanted to see what would happen next. In the United Nations Space Command Center, Commander Elizabeth Harrington watched the large screen. The 7 Zentari battleships had moved during the night. They were now in a perfect line above Earth. Their huge shapes blocked the stars behind them. "They're getting ready for their show," said Lieutenant Gregory Walsh. He stood beside Elizabeth, his face showing no emotion. Like most of the people in this room, he had trained for years for this day. "What's the status of our public defense systems?" Elizabeth asked. "All normal," Gregory replied. "Our small ships and space stations are on high alert, but they're not doing anything that would seem unusual to the Zentari. As far as the aliens can tell, we're just watching them with simple equipment." Elizabeth nodded. "And the Shadow Fleet?" Gregory lowered his voice even though everyone in the room had top security clearance. "All ships are in position but still hidden. The stealth systems are working perfectly. The Zentari have no idea they're there." On the other side of the room, Dr. Samuel Collins was studying data from the alien ships. "Commander, you should see this," he called. Elizabeth walked over to his station. "What is it?" "The Zentari ships are powering up some kind of energy weapons," Samuel said. "Nothing dangerous yet, but they're getting ready to show off." As if on cue, the communications system came to life. Admiral Zorvek's face appeared on the main screen again. "People of Earth," the blue-skinned alien said. "Today we will show you the might of the Zentari Confederation. Watch and be amazed by the power we offer to protect your world." The alien's face disappeared, replaced by a view of the ships from one of Earth's space telescopes. The 7 battleships began to move. They changed from a straight line into a circle. Then they started to glow with purple light. Beams of energy shot out from each ship, meeting in the middle of the circle. Where they met, a ball of light formed, growing larger and brighter. "What are they doing?" Elizabeth asked, concerned. Samuel checked his readings. "It seems to be just for show. The energy levels are high but controlled. They're not aiming at anything." The ball of light suddenly broke apart into thousands of smaller lights. They spread out in all directions like a giant firework. As they moved, they changed colors from purple to blue to green to red. "Impressive," Elizabeth admitted. The light show continued for several minutes. The Zentari ships moved in complex patterns, always in perfect formation. They fired energy beams into space, creating beautiful but scary displays of power. Then smaller ships began to launch from the battleships. Hundreds of them, each about the size of a human fighter jet. They flew in tight formations, moving faster than any Earth aircraft could go. They performed complicated maneuvers that seemed impossible, turning at angles that would kill a human pilot. In the White House Situation Room, President Olivia Martinez watched the display on a large screen. Around her sat her top advisors and military leaders. Their faces were lit by the glow from the screen. "They're certainly putting on a good show," said the Secretary of Defense, an older woman with short white hair. "That's the point, President," Martinez replied. "They want to impress us. They want us to feel small and weak so we'll accept their protection. They have no idea what we're really capable of." The President turned to another screen that showed Admiral Richard Johnson on the secret moon base. "Admiral, what's your assessment of their technology based on what we're seeing?" Admiral Johnson looked thoughtful. "Their energy weapons are powerful but not as advanced as ours. Their ships move well, but I see no evidence of the gravity control technology we've developed. They're showing off technology that we passed 20 years ago. So we could beat them in a fight? The president asked. Without question, the admiral replied. But let's hope it doesn't come to that. Back at the Space Command Center, Elizabeth watched as the Zentari finished their display. The small ships returned to the battleships. The energy beams stopped. The 7 huge ships moved back into a line. Admiral Zorvek's face appeared on the screen again. He looked pleased with himself. People of Earth, you have witnessed just a small sample of Zentari power. Our science is thousands of years ahead of yours. Our weapons could destroy your cities in seconds. But we offer these same weapons to protect you, not harm you. The alien paused, his insect-like eyes seeming to stare directly at everyone watching. We have seen your primitive spacecraft, your simple satellites, your basic weapons. You are like children taking your first steps into a dangerous forest. The Zentari Confederation will guide you and keep you safe. In return, we ask only for your loyalty and a share of your planet's resources. Elizabeth's hands tightened into fists. This was not an offer of friendship. It was a demand for surrender. Tomorrow, we will meet with your world leaders to discuss the terms of our protection. Prepare your representatives. The future of your species depends on your cooperation. The screen went dark. Send the coded message to the president, Elizabeth told Gregory. Tell her it's time for Phase 2. Gregory nodded and moved to a secure communication station. Elizabeth looked at the main screen, where the Zentari ships still hung in orbit. The aliens thought they had seen everything humans could do. They thought Earth was defenseless against their superior technology. Enjoy your feeling of superiority while it lasts, Admiral Zorvek, Elizabeth said quietly. Tomorrow you'll learn what humans are really capable of. The morning after the Zentari display, Earth was quiet. People went to work and school as usual, but everyone was thinking about the alien ships above them. News channels showed the same images over and over, the 7 huge battleships hanging in orbit, waiting. At the United Nations building in New York, world leaders gathered for an emergency meeting. They sat around a large table, their faces serious. President Olivia Martinez stood at the head of the table. She wore a simple blue suit and looked calm, though she had barely slept all night. The Zentari will contact us in 1 hour, she said. They expect us to agree to their demands. They think we have no choice. The room was silent. Everyone knew what was at stake. For 50 years, we have kept our true capabilities secret, President Martinez continued. We built our ships and weapons in hidden bases. We made sure no signals could be detected from Earth. We did this because we knew this day would come. Today we show the galaxy that humans will not be conquered. On the main screen in the room, Admiral Richard Johnson appeared from his command post on the moon base. Behind him, people were busy preparing for what came next. All Shadow Fleet ships are ready, Madam President, he said. Crews are at battle stations. Weapons are charged but not targeted. We can reveal ourselves on your command. President Martinez nodded. Good. Remember, we do not want to start a war. We only want to show them that we are not as weak as they think. In the Space Command Center, Commander Elizabeth Harrington stood with her team, watching the clock. When the time came, she would coordinate everything from Earth while Admiral Johnson commanded the fleet from the moon. Lieutenant Walsh, are the orbital platforms ready? She asked. Gregory checked his screen. Yes, Commander. All defense platforms are prepared to drop their disguises. These platforms had been in orbit for years, looking like regular satellites or small space stations. In reality, they were powerful weapons that could defend Earth if needed. Dr. Samuel Collins approached. Elizabeth. The Zentari are beginning to broadcast, Commander. Elizabeth nodded. Put it on the main screen and make sure the President's response can be sent immediately after. Admiral Zorvek's blue face appeared on screens all over Earth. He looked confident, even smug. People of Earth, he said. The time has come to discuss the terms of our arrangement. The Zentari Confederation will provide protection for your world. In return, you will give us 20% of all your resources and agree to follow Zentari laws. This is very generous. Other races pay much more for our protection. Zorvek paused, as if waiting for gratitude. Your leaders will now formally accept our offer. Resistance would be unwise. Each of our ships carries weapons that could destroy your largest cities in seconds. The alien's face disappeared, replaced by President Martinez. She sat at a desk with the flags of Earth's nations behind her. Admiral Zorvek, she said, her voice strong and clear. On behalf of the people of Earth, I must decline your offer of protection. In space, the Zentari ships began to move, spreading out into attack positions. Zorvek appeared on the screen again, his face showing surprise and anger. You refuse? Do you not understand your situation? You have no defenses that could stop even one of our ships. President Martinez smiled slightly. I think there has been a misunderstanding, Admiral. You believe Earth is defenseless because that is what we wanted you to believe. Allow us to show you the truth. She nodded to someone off-screen. Admiral Johnson, watching from the moon base, pressed a button on his command console. Execute Operation Revelation, he ordered. In space, something remarkable happened. Beyond the orbit of the moon, the emptiness began to change. Huge shapes appeared where nothing had been visible before. First one, then another, then dozens more. Ship after ship revealed itself, dropping the stealth fields that had made them completely invisible. The largest was the UES Leviathan, humanity's flagship. It was nearly 5 miles long, almost twice the size of the largest Zentari ship. Black hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Beside it appeared the battlecruisers Valkyrie, Excalibur, and Trident, each powerful enough to face several Zentari ships at once. Then came the 12 destroyers of the Spectre class, smaller but faster, designed for quick strikes. After them, fighter carriers and support vessels appeared, until more than 50 human warships hung in space. But the surprises were not over. Around Earth, the satellites and space stations began to transform. Panels slid away to reveal weapon systems. Small objects grew into large defense platforms. The International Space Station, which the Zentari had dismissed as primitive, opened like a flower to show a massive energy cannon hidden inside its core. On the far side of the moon, huge doors opened on the surface, revealing the secret base that had been there for decades. More ships rose from inside, taking positions in a defensive pattern. In the Space Command Center, Elizabeth watched the Zentari ships on the main screen. Their formations had frozen. They were not attacking, but they were not retreating either. They seemed stunned. Open a channel to the Zentari flagship, she ordered. When the connection was made, Elizabeth spoke clearly. Admiral Zorvek, this is Commander Elizabeth Harrington of Earth's United Space Command. What you see before you is approximately 20% of our full defensive fleet. The rest remain at our colonies in the solar system and beyond. This was only partly true. Earth did have more ships, but not as many as Elizabeth suggested. Still, the Zentari had no way to know that. We have observed your confederation for many years, Elizabeth continued. We know how you treat your protected worlds. We know you take their resources and give little in return. Earth will not become one of your colonies. On the screen, Admiral Zorvek's face showed a mix of shock and fear. His crew could be seen behind him, moving quickly, clearly preparing for possible battle. This is impossible, Zorvek said. Our intelligence indicated your people only achieved basic space travel 50 years ago. Elizabeth smiled. That information was intentionally released. In truth, we have had faster-than-light capabilities for over a century. We simply chose to keep it quiet while we observed the galaxy and built our defenses. Admiral Johnson's voice came through the communications system. Commander Harrington, the Zentari ships are powering up their weapons. Should we target them? Elizabeth looked at the alien admiral on the screen. That would be unwise, Admiral Zorvek. We did not reveal our fleet to start a war. We did it to show you that Earth must be treated with respect. Power down your weapons, and let's discuss a true partnership instead of your protection. The future of both species now hung in the balance, waiting for the Zentari response. For several long minutes, no one moved. The Zentari ships and the human fleet faced each other in space. On Earth and in command centers, people held their breath, waiting. Admiral Zorvek's face was still on the main screen in the Space Command Center. His blue skin had paled slightly. Behind him, his crew worked quickly at their stations. Elizabeth watched him carefully, looking for any sign that he might attack. Finally, the alien spoke. "Your deception was impressive, Commander Harrington, but this changes nothing. The Zentari Confederation still has more ships, more weapons. We could call our main fleet and you would be overwhelmed." Elizabeth kept her face calm, though inside she felt worried. What the Admiral said was probably true. If the full Zentari fleet came to Earth, the fight would be hard. Many would die. "You could do that," she agreed. "But why start a war that would cost many lives on both sides, especially when we could help each other instead?" On the Zentari flagship, Admiral Zorvek turned to speak quietly with one of his officers. When he faced the screen again, he looked less angry. "You speak of helping each other," he said. "What do you mean?" President Martinez's voice came through the communication system. "Admiral Zorvek, Earth is willing to join the wider galactic community. We are willing to trade with the Zentari Confederation, but we will do so as equals, not as a protected world that pays for safety." Zorvek seemed to think about this. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion in person," he suggested. "I will come to your world with a small group." President Martinez nodded. "Agreed. We will meet at our lunar base in 2 hours. Commander Harrington and Admiral Johnson will join us." The screen went dark as the transmission ended. Elizabeth turned to her team. "Keep all ships on alert. This could still be a trick." Gregory nodded. "Yes, Commander. What do you think they'll do?" Elizabeth looked back at the screen showing the Zentari ships. "I think they're too smart to start a fight they might not win. But we need to show them more of what we can do just to make sure they understand." 2 hours later, Elizabeth sat beside Admiral Johnson and President Martinez in a meeting room at the Armstrong base on the moon. The room had one wall made entirely of clear material that showed Earth hanging in the black sky. The door slid open, and 4 Zentari entered. Admiral Zorvek led them. In person, he was taller than a human, nearly 7 feet, with shoulders wider than seemed possible. His movements were smooth and controlled. "Welcome to Armstrong Base," President Martinez said, standing to greet them. "Please, sit down." The aliens took seats across the table. Zorvek looked around the room with his strange, multifaceted eyes. "This base is impressive," he admitted. "How long have you hidden it from our scans?" "It has been here for 42 years, Admiral Johnson said. "Our stealth technology was one of the first things we developed when we realized we were not alone in the galaxy." Zorvek's eyes narrowed. "You knew about us for that long?" Elizabeth nodded. "We detected your scout ships decades ago. That's when we decided to hide our true progress. We wanted to be ready if your intentions were not friendly." President Martinez leaned forward. "Before we discuss possible cooperation, we would like to show you one more thing. A demonstration of our own." She nodded to Admiral Johnson, who pressed a button on the table. "Captain Sofia Rodriguez," he said. "You may proceed." On a screen on the wall, they could see space outside the moon's orbit. The UES Valkyrie, one of Earth's battlecruisers, moved into position. "Weapons Demonstration Pattern Delta," came Captain Rodriguez's voice over the speakers. "No direct targeting of Zentari vessels." The Valkyrie turned its main cannon toward an empty area of the moon's surface, far from any base or important location. A beam of bright white energy shot from the ship. When it hit the moon, a crater formed that was visible to the naked eye. The Zentari leaned forward, clearly surprised by the power of the weapon. Next, the UES Excalibur demonstrated its defense systems. Small asteroids were launched toward it, from another human ship. The Excalibur's weapons fired rapidly, breaking the asteroids into dust before they got close. Most impressive was what the Leviathan did next. The huge ship activated its gravitational manipulation drive. The space around it seemed to bend. Light curved around the ship, making it appear to fade from view. Then it reappeared 50 miles away in an instant. Teleportation? One of the Centauri officers asked, unable to hide his shock. Admiral Johnson shook his head. Not exactly. We can create small, controlled distortions in spacetime. It allows our ships to move in ways that appear impossible. Zorvek was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different than before. The arrogance was gone. The Centauri Confederation has not seen technology like this in many centuries, he said. Most races we encounter are far less advanced. He paused, seeming to find it hard to say the next words. We may have misjudged your species. President Martinez smiled slightly. That seems clear, Admiral. Now, shall we discuss a more equal relationship? The meeting continued for several hours. They talked about trade, about sharing some technologies, about the other races in the galaxy. The Centauri were still proud, still powerful, but they now treated the humans with respect. As the meeting ended, Zorvek approached Elizabeth. Your deception was masterful, Commander, he said. You let us believe we were superior, while all the time you were watching us, studying us. Elizabeth nodded. Humans have a saying, Admiral. It is better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. The alien's face showed confusion. It means, Elizabeth explained, that sometimes it's better to let others underestimate you. Zorvek made a sound that might have been a laugh. A lesson the Centauri will not forget. The galaxy should watch humans carefully, I think. As the Centauri left to return to their ships, Elizabeth looked out the window at Earth. The planet seemed peaceful from here, but she knew that it was home to a species that had learned to be careful, to prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Today, that preparation had paid off. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage not as a weak race needing protection, but as a power to be respected. 1 week after the first meeting with the Centauri, much had changed. The alien ships were still in Earth orbit, but they were no longer in attack positions. Instead, they floated alongside human vessels, as teams from both sides worked together. Elizabeth sat in her office at Space Command, reading reports from these teams. Scientists and engineers from Earth and the Centauri Confederation were sharing some of their knowledge. Not everything, of course. Both sides kept their most important secrets. But it was a start. There was a knock at her door. Come in, she called. Lieutenant Gregory Walsh entered, holding a tablet. New reports from the joint teams, Commander, he said, handing it to her. And Admiral Johnson has called a meeting for this afternoon at Armstrong Base. The final treaty will be signed tomorrow. Elizabeth nodded. Thank you, Gregory. After he left, she looked out her window at the blue sky. It was hard to believe that just 1 week ago, Earth had faced possible invasion. Now they were on the edge of becoming part of the wider galactic community. Her communication screen lit up. It was Dr. Samuel Collins calling from one of the research stations where humans and Centauri were working together. Commander Harrington, he said, his face excited. You need to see this. The Centauri have shared information about 5 other spacefaring races in our sector of the galaxy. 3 of them are part of their confederation. 2 are independent, like we will be. Elizabeth leaned forward. What are they like? Are any of them a threat to us? Samuel shook his head. Not immediately. The independent races are both farther away from us than the Centauri, and they're less advanced militarily. But one of them, the Neverans, is particularly interesting. They're traders, not warriors. They control important trade routes and have a strong economy. Potential allies? Elizabeth asked. Possibly. They've managed to stay independent from the Centauri for centuries by making themselves too valuable to attack. The Centauri officer I'm working with suggested that a human-Neveran alliance would be concerning for them. Elizabeth smiled slightly. Interesting. Send me everything you have on the Neverans and keep learning what you can. Knowledge is power, especially now. That afternoon, Elizabeth took a shuttle to the moon. The flight took only 30 minutes in the advanced craft. As they approached Armstrong Base, she could see the changes that had happened in the last week. The base was no longer hidden. Its full extent was visible on the lunar surface. A sprawling complex of buildings, landing pads, and domes. Several Zentari ships were docked at the base. Their purple hulls stood out against the white and gray human structures. Inside the base's main building, Elizabeth joined Admiral Johnson, President Martinez, and other human leaders in a large conference room. The Zentari delegation, led by Admiral Zorvek, sat across from them. "The final draft of the treaty has been prepared," President Martinez said. "Both sides have reviewed it. Are there any last concerns before we sign tomorrow?" Admiral Zorvek looked at a device in his hand, similar to a human tablet but made of a strange, partly transparent material. "One matter remains unclear," he said. "The treaty speaks of human territory, but your people have been secretive about the extent of your presence in space. For this agreement to work, we need to know your true reach." President Martinez looked at Admiral Johnson, who nodded slightly. "Very well," she said. "We will show you." A large holographic display appeared in the center of the table. It showed the solar system, the sun, Earth, and all the planets. "You know about our moon base," Admiral Johnson said, "and our small colonies on Mars." He touched a control, and more points of light appeared in the display, on Venus, on several moons of Jupiter and Saturn, in the asteroid belt. "These are our other bases and small colonies in the solar system," he explained. "Most are research stations or mining operations." Zorvek studied the display. "This is more than we knew, but still just one star system. Is this all?" "Admiral," Johnson smiled slightly. "No." He touched the control again. The display zoomed out, showing nearby stars. 3 of them lit up with small blue lights. "We have small outposts in these systems," he said. "Unmanned scientific stations, mostly. But we have been there." The Zentari exchanged looks of surprise. "Your faster-than-light travel is more developed than you led us to believe," Zorvek said. President Martinez nodded. "We have been careful, but now is the time for more openness, if we are to be true allies." The meeting continued for several hours, with both sides sharing more information. Not everything, but enough to build trust. As the meeting ended, Elizabeth found herself walking with Admiral Zorvek toward the shuttle bay. "Your people are full of surprises, Commander Harrington," he said. "We had to be," she replied. "When we first detected alien signals decades ago, we didn't know if the visitors would be friends or enemies, so we prepared for the worst while hoping for the best." Zorvek made the sound that Elizabeth now recognized as a Zentari laugh. "The Confederation is not used to dealing with races who can match our power. It is refreshing in a way." They stopped at a large window that looked out over the lunar surface. Earth hung in the black sky, blue and beautiful. "What will your people do now?" Zorvek asked. "With your secret revealed, how will humans change?" Elizabeth thought for a moment, before answering. "We will explore, learn, grow, make new friends and perhaps new enemies. But most importantly, we will remain true to who we are." "And who are humans, truly?" the alien asked, his strange eyes studying her. "We are survivors," she said simply. "We plan for the worst but hope for the best. We prepare in secret but celebrate in the open. We can be warriors when needed, but prefer to be builders." The next day, in a ceremony broadcast to Earth and the Zentari homeworld, the treaty was signed. Humans would join the wider galactic community as an independent power, not under Zentari control but as their allies. As President Martinez signed her name to the document, Elizabeth stood with Admiral Johnson and watched. This was only the beginning. There would be challenges ahead as humanity stepped onto the galactic stage, but they had already overcome the first and perhaps most dangerous one. They had earned respect. "Ready for what comes next?" Admiral Johnson asked quietly. Elizabeth nodded. "Always. That's what humans do best." Beyond the window, Earth continued, its eternal dance around the sun. But now, its people knew for certain that they were not alone in the universe. And more importantly, the universe now knew about them.